All right, as you can see today, we're going to be juggling. I've got two baseballs and a lacrosse ball. I don't actually recommend you using something like this, using a ball like this indoors. If you're outside, away from things that you'll break, they'll work great. I like a heavier ball. I feel like it's easier to catch. But other options that you might be able to find at home are some rolled up socks or some rags. They don't work quite as well as the scarves that we juggle at school, but they're similar in that they're going to float a little bit and they're a little bigger to grab. So as you can see, I got 3 different colors. It helps me keep track of the correct one I should be throwing. Okay. So when we're juggling, there's 2 things that we need to do. Number 1, we need to have consistent throws. Your throws need to travel the same way every time. The pattern they should go for this type of juggling, this is called a cascade, is catching the ball on the outside, bringing it to the inside, and I'm throwing down around my belly button, and the ball is traveling up just above my head and then coming back down on the outside. So I throw on the inside, catch on the outside. That was a little far away. So your first task is following this pattern that we just went over, is to do 100 throws using both hands, never handing it back and forth, and trying to get the same throw every time. 100 times. Go. Okay, we're back. Step 2. The second part of juggling after that consistent throw is the timing. You can't get the timing down very well if your throw's not good, and that's why we did that first. But now the timing of it. The important thing to recognize is you want to throw this one when this one is just at its peak. If you wait till it's too late, it gets in the way of throwing or makes it hard to catch. If you throw, you end up catching 2 balls at the same time, and you aren't able to keep a consistent pattern. So 100 more throws. This is why juggling is hard. Most people don't want to put in the time. 100 more throws. I'm going to throw. When it gets at the peak, I'm going to throw the next one. And you want it to feel smooth and under control. Now I'm going to make sure I switch hands so I'm not always leading with one hand. Notice my eyes are up too. I'm not staring down at the ball. If you stare down at the ball, you'll lose track of them when they're up in the air. If you can see the ball at its peak, you generally will know where it's going, about where it's going, and that's why you're going to have success catching it. Okay? So 100 throws where we're working on the timing. Throwing the second ball when the first one is just at the peak above your forehead. All right, 100 throws, go. All right, we're back. Now we've got 3 balls. You got to start with 2 in one hand. This is where it can be a little bit tricky, especially if you're younger and you have smaller hands. So find an object that's easy to hold. Okay, an object that some of you might have around your home is a golf ball, but again, that's a harder object. And so if you're going to use a golf ball or a hard ball, go outside. So here we go. I'm going to throw and practicing the same things. Whoop. No big deal. Don't ever worry about dropping a ball. That's normal. What you don't want to start doing is handing the ball from one hand to the other because you're uncomfortable. Force yourself to be uncomfortable. As you can see, if my throws get a little inconsistent, it makes it really hard to go. Okay, so go ahead and give that a try. Don't set a number for yourself. Maybe do it for 5 minutes. Take a break. Sometimes things like juggling, it really helps to put 5 serious minutes into it. Give it a break because it's also mental. So, good luck. Okay, now I'm going to show you another trick that I have used in my class a lot to help students figure out the timing. Because like I said, you want to throw the second ball when the first one's just at its peak. So what we're going to do is you're going to juggle with one hand and 2 balls. So there's a couple ways to do this. You can throw it kind of towards yourself, or you can do it similarly where it's this little loop. But again, what it forces you to do is throw the second ball when the first is at its peak. Again, don't use a hard ball inside unless you have a great space for it. I'm going to show you one more trick, but I got to set up the camera a little differently. All right, here's another modification for my younger students because up till second grade, I don't see a lot of people succeeding at juggling with 3 objects. What I start seeing is that they are starting to figure out how to not hand it to each other. Now, every student's different. You're going to develop the skill differently. It also depends on how much time you practice. But here's some modifications. Actually sit on the floor, because then it prevents the student from worrying as much about whether they're dropping it. So I just showed juggling with 1 hand and 2 balls, and now we're going to do that again with our regs. So the cool part is it doesn't matter if it drops. In fact, it's okay to start the objects on the ground. There we go. And again, if you're having as much trouble as with the consistency of where it goes, go ahead and use the balls. But again, it doesn't matter if it falls. Now, let's say I'm juggling and I want to go to 3 and I'm having trouble with it. Put 2 on one side. This will really help you get the pattern down, because for the younger students, the pattern is also part of the challenge. So I've got 2 on one side and 1 on the other, and I'm going to throw it across and grab the one I threw. This one's still over here. And what develops is their ability to follow a pattern. So it might look silly, but you're actually starting to understand how to juggle.